That's quite a journey already. That's so lovely. So thank you for joining in the tabernacling. And the music seemed to be made for it to transport you somewhere else, wherever that is. And so, welcome to the initiate. The initiate, the pathless, steps on the pathless path, is the title that came to me. And as I said in the introduction that I made on the website, it is directly related to chapter 15 of A Course in Miracles. But also, not just that, being connected to a chapter isn't really it. So that's why it might feel like, well, what is so interesting about chapter 15? And so this is the Christmas chapter of A Course in Miracles, you could say. And then still there's the question, what is so interesting about the Christmas chapter? And what is the initiate anyway? What is an initiate? So all these questions, we're going to let an answer come to us, but in a very different way. And the different way is that we will use more parables, that's one thing. But basically I'm referring to, in this series, I will be referring to your receptivity more than intellect or understanding. And that's always interesting for me to do that in whatever way, by bringing things to expression, or by having suddenly a way to deal with your brother that you didn't do before. It's like having your transition buddy, for instance, in the Doulas series. But here it will be different. So there's metaphors, there's poetry, there's also the parables. And the parables specifically are going to, one is going to get you. I don't know which one, of course, because it's your resonance with what is being offered. But I will expose you to some of them. Today, for instance, we start with some parables by Jesus Christ of Nazareth in Matthew 13. And his disciples approached, and then they were saying to him, "Why are you speaking with them in parables?" But he answered and said to them, "It has been given to you to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. For to one who has it, it will be given, and it will be increased. And from him who has not, will be taken even that which he has. Therefore I am speaking to them in parables, because they who see do not see, and those who hear neither hear nor understand. And the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled in them, which says, Hearing you will hear, and you will not understand, and seeing you will see, and you will not know. For the heart of this people has become dense, and they have hardly heard with their ears, and their ears have shut, lest they would see with their eyes, and they would hear with their ears, and they would understand in their hearts, and they would be converted, and I would heal them. But you have blessings to your eyes, for they are seeing, and to your ears, for they are hearing. For I say to you that many prophets and righteous ones have yearned to see the things that you are seeing, and they did not see them, and to hear the things that you are hearing, and they did not hear them. But hear the parable of the seed. Everyone who hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand, the evil one comes into him and snatches the word that was sown into his heart. This is that which was sown upon the roadside. But that which was sown on the rock is one who hears the word, and immediately with joy he receives it. but there are no roots in him. But he is temporal, and when there is distress or persecution because of the word, immediately he falls apart. That which was sown among the thorns is the one who hears the word and cares of this world and deception of wealth and choke the word, and that one is fruitless. But that which was sown on the good soil is he who hears my word and understands, and he yields fruit and produces some by the hundreds and some by the 60s and some by the 30s. Matthew 13, Jesus just comes up with 5 different parables just in one talk. Like imagine he chooses to go stand on a ship because the beach is already too crowded. There are 1,200 people wanting to listen to him. But then they didn't really want to listen to him. So he's not all of them at least. So he uses parables. And parables in the sense of who can hear it. And the rest will questions like, well, it doesn't make sense. What is he talking about? Or who does he think he is? Or, they start to question or doubt. Now, he's not fooled by numbers in that sense. Jesus is not fooled by a great crowd, as if the receptivity would increase with the number. It's like, no. It's an individual recognition that we're talking about here. Now, this is how Jesus taught many times, using parables. But he's not the only one doing that. So there's also, I posted some as a podcast, some Lao Tse or Liu Tzu expressions, also parables, that was used in a talk of Osho. Now, Osho, not that I'm doing anything with Osho, but he's sure is an old friend. Osho states in his, in his lecture, he talks about the use of parables as an art form, in fact, using it not to talk about God, for instance, but to come from the place of being that and expressing yourself. Now that might not sound too clear at this point, but you can see it like this. It's like, I can make a drawing, sure, I can make a drawing, but before it I can say it's art. I in fact have to allow it to be new and be created through me in a certain form, for instance, but not even necessarily that. In other words, you have to become the expression, and so you're it yourself. Now this is a recognition that you know very well. So the initiate has to do with the I that I am. Right? We know this expression. So who's then this I that talks and has ideas and that thinks it is something, or that thinks that it perceives limitation? This I, like ego, from the Latin word ego, like meaning I. So there's one I that is the I that I am, and there's one I that thinks it is what it is. But it's not the I that I am. So this confusion, or this, you know very well, you've heard it many times. Now, the initiate is an experience, you could say. It doesn't make a lot of sense to give it a definition. It would not add anything to it. Now, how do you recognize yourself to be the initiate? The initiate being the one touched by spirit. As we use the words of Chagall from yesterday's tape group, like the one who's touched by spirit, who has received light recognition, who actually, see, now I'm trying already to create an image, you could say. I'm already trying to give a description. That's not what it is. So that's why we approach it a little different this time too. And use more parables to make you actively listen to what is being given, and and more and more and more. Like there will be more to discover in that sense. The initiate, we will also do exercises. Oh, this is one thing I can say too. Like we will do exercises. Now, for instance, today I'm going to share some expressions from A Course in Miracles, chapter 15, and one of them will hold the idea of changelessness, and that what is eternal is changeless. It will not be changing. It's always there. It's always present. It is the I that I am. It's always present, but it's changeless. Now, to come to changelessness as an inspiration, we will take a look at that. We do an exercise with that. What do we actually do then? Open our mind, like open and receive something new, discover something that we didn't see before, that wasn't able to come to us just because of an idea, in fact. So that's another part. Now the chapter 15 in the Course in Miracles, it is they have different titles in the blue book than in the Urtext, so I will not do that right now. But it is like there are some chapters before that. The chapters 12, 13, 14. And those chapters have everything to do, in fact, with recognition of that guilt is an obstacle to peace. That's chapter 18, but it's like in 15, it's in the middle of that. So it's like there's a lot of descriptions of guilt and of release of guilt and of discovering things related to your place in the world, how you have been relating to the world, and that being taking yourself away from the center of your being, as you know yourself to be in the I that I am. So chapter 15 then is the moment, in fact, where the realization takes place of your Christ, that the Christ that is born in you as a baby child in you, that needs nurturing, it needs care, it needs love, and it needs attention. So that's in fact an essential part in chapter 15. So the initiate is like being born. The Christ mind is being born. You recognize yourself to be, in that sense, different, because there has been something occurring in you that literally is changing everything for you in your relationship with yourself, with the world, and all this. And especially the idea of time. And now, in chapter 15, there's so much time-related material, and of course in many of the chapters. And why is that? So that's why I want to say something about too. So the idea of time, the purpose of time, is really where the title of the chapter, at least in the Urtext, I'm not sure about the blue book anymore. But anyway, so it's like the purpose of time. Why is there such a thing as time? And how can you make use of time in such a way that you, say, limit your suffering to the maximum, that you don't have to suffer in time? Now this makes the initiate as steps on the pathless path an absolute spiritual healing class. So it's like you will face aspects of that in such a way that is so incredibly beautiful and helpful and practical. That's why I use it, of course, and that's why I love to bring it to you, because it is a saving of time for everyone included. It exists by you allowing the possibility for it. So it's literally in your own hands in that sense. Now that works 100% better than you think. So it's not depending on anything that you have to do, but it has to do with you allowing that to occur, giving the space, open-mindedness, so that can occur. That would be the miracle of Christmas. It really is. It's like, that is so great. Now coming back to then the time idea, because we're dealing here with Christ, Spirit, presence, right here, right now. Now here we go. Here's something. So the thing that happens with being present is, in fact, that everything is literally collapsing into this moment. It's all, say, falling apart in this moment. Every idea that you build about the world or opposites that you recognize to be there, they collapse into this moment of recognition, into this moment of presence, of like remembering now, of this moment, of that what is the totality of eternity. It has nothing to do with time. It has nothing to do with your ideas about now, or ideas about Holy Spirit, or ideas about presence. No, it goes deeper than that. It has no longer to do with any objectives. It has to do with experience. And this, as a recognition of the light in you, is like, yeah, here's that rock in the water on the beach, like a huge rock. The waves are rocking into them. They're literally bouncing on that rock. And what happens to the rock? Absolutely nothing. It doesn't move. It doesn't shake or shiver. It doesn't go anywhere. It is just there. It's like, this is how you can see yourself in the recognition of presence. And this is your anchor of light in the present, like right here, right now. This is happening to you. This is spirit, in fact, within you, just like that, in all its simplicity. Here's an idea. I get an idea. Yeah, but, or still I come with a description of myself. I'm tempted to come with a description of myself. Yes, but how about tomorrow? Yes, how about last week? I'm so afraid that this will happen again. Tomorrow, I'm really, like, I don't want that the same thing will happen again tomorrow. I'm afraid of that. So in other words, you have an idea. You have an idea, you see that temporarily as your reality. What happens then? It unfolds. As a dream in a dream, like it unfolds, it unfolds, it unfolds. Suddenly you're right there in your reality, picking up these thoughts, letting them expand, giving them value, giving them, reality, in fact. Feeling fear, feeling pain, feeling fear, feeling anxiety, feeling alone, feeling lacking something. You don't even know exactly what it is, but you're caught in it. That's what you know for sure. And here you come back. Suddenly you remember, oh yeah, wait a minute, I can be still. I can listen. I can be still and allow myself to enter back into this present moment. Now what happened to this dream? It dissolved. It literally is gone, because what was it? In the time that I got an idea, I had an image about tomorrow. I saw a form for tomorrow or yesterday. I saw something, like I saw an image. I saw a little fabrication that I gave energy, that I esteemed as real, that I started to walk into as an exitless labyrinth. And I go further into it, further into it, further into it, taking all kinds of directions and dead-end roads. But in the end, the labyrinth is without exit. You can't get out of it. So you feel locked into where you find yourself in that moment, in your world, you could say. Something must happen to come out of it. And that's what we call then a miracle. It's like the miracle brings you back right here, because it is not ruled by time. It takes you out of time. It gives you a recognition of, oh yeah, wait a minute, I'm the dreamer of the dream, and everything is cool and safe. Like I'm here, and I'm in communication with the universe. I just felt that. I've just felt the release of this labyrinth that I found myself in, like this little nightmare that I found myself in a moment ago. Now here I'm back in this present moment and experiencing peace. Suddenly the fear is gone. It's like it's just not there. Now what do? I keep my mind open. Suddenly presented to me are in fact all possibilities. All possibilities are open at this point. I'm not limiting it to one specific image. No, I keep it open. So every possibility is right here. And that can only come to me when my mind is open. Now here is your solution, you could say, in the sense of everything is possible at this point. Everything is open. Everything is possible. But if I pick up one thought and lose myself in that thought, I limit myself in my ideas. Suddenly not everything is possible anymore. And I get myself into a certain detour. And this detour becomes more and more limiting, until I, in fact, ask for help and allow myself to be taken out of this labyrinth, back into the present moment. Now that is the practice, of course, that we do, but we don't see it like this all the time. So you can say, like, yeah, my thoughts are meaningless, as it says in the beginning of A Course in Miracles. My thoughts are meaningless, and yes, it is. My thoughts are meaningless. So why would you pick up a thought? Is then the next question. Now that was a question of the initiate. Why would I pick up any thought if it is limiting me, and if it is say meaningless? Why would I want to pick up a thought? So here in chapter 15 of the course, like the purpose of time is, now we have an opportunity to learn from this moment and not from anything else. So I stay aligned with spirit, and I'm not moving anywhere. It's like I'm staying right here. I move literally through something, and that is, I don't let myself be distracted by my ideas about what I think should happen, how I think I need to look at anything, how I see myself, how I see God. All of this, like any consideration or concern, dissolves in this instant if I allow spirit to be my guide, which is the only way to stay in peace, in fact. Now this we come back to in this series many times, for sure, because it is such a great thing to practice this. Like, it's literally your only way out. And so hold on to this. What I'm going to do is pull up some expressions from chapter 15 that support this idea that I'm just sharing. So here it is, Steps on the Pathless Path. Can you imagine, this is how it begins, chapter 15. Can you imagine what it means to have no cares, no worries, no anxieties, but merely be perfectly calm and quiet all the time? Well, that's a great question. Can you imagine what it would be to have no cares, no worries, no anxieties, but merely be perfectly calm and quiet all the time? Yet that is what time is for, to learn just that and nothing more. God's teacher cannot be satisfied with his teaching until it constitutes all your learning. He has not fulfilled his teaching function until you have become such consistent learners that you only learn of him. So who's God's teacher? It's like the one who is in the present moment. The Holy Spirit, the teacher, the one who is speaking, and not of his own accord, but as the one, and the one that I am. His function, his teaching function, until you have, he has not fulfilled his teaching function until you have become such consistent learners that you only learn of him. When this has happened, you will no longer need a teacher or time in which to learn. Yeah, so this gives it and brings it in perspective. Like, why are we doing this? Well, it is what time is for, to learn that there's no need, there's no reason for cares, worries, anxieties. No, it is an attainment of perfect calmness and quiet all the time, without exception. So the only thing that you have to do, in fact, is to become such a consistent learner that you learn only of him, the one who is present in this instant, the one that is with you always and teaches you always, instructs you always, if you listen. One of the sources of perceived discouragement from which you suffer is your belief that this, what we were talking about, takes time. You think it takes time, so what does it do? It takes time. This is the power of your mind. You think it takes time, and it takes time. This is not so. For the Holy Spirit uses time in his own way and is not bound to it. Time is his friend in teaching. He uses time constructively, you could say. The ego, on the other hand, teaches thus. So that's the I that you think you are. Death is the end, as far as hope of heaven goes. But because you and itself, ego self, cannot be separated, and because it cannot conceive of its own death, it will pursue you still, because your guilt is eternal. That's what the ego teaches. Your guilt is eternal. So that, like, you agreed to die because you're a body, you die, so that takes care of that, but you won't be able to get rid of your guilt. Otherwise, the ego would have no, say, continuation. Time is your friend if you leave it to the Holy Spirit to use. In other words, time is your friend if you leave it to the present moment to use. He needs but very little to restore God's whole power to you. He who transcends time for you understands what it is for. Holiness lies not in time but in eternity. There never was an instant in which God's Son could lose his purity. Here's the word changeless. His changeless state is beyond time, for his purity remains forever beyond attack and without variability. Time stands still in his holiness and changes not, and so it is no longer time at all, for caught in the single instant of eternal sanctity of God's creation, it is transformed into forever. Like, to whom is that occurring? To whom is being talked to here? So for who is this message? For who is this to accept, in fact, as functioning, as you functioning in your life? For who is this? So it's like, only by your acceptance of this it will work, and you will see it for what it is. So it's like, here's your great teacher. He's always with you. It's always right here. It doesn't go anywhere. It's changelessness itself. It's like this rock on the beach. This rock where the waves collapse into, but nothing happens. It's just steady and it's constant. It is changeless, absolutely changeless. So there's your certainty. So it brings you back to your certainty. The rest is all variable, like a lot of variability. It changes all the time. In time, things change all the time. Bless you. So this is great, and like, this is such a great chapter, because it's in fact, you could say, healing instruction 101, but also the highest teaching possible. Like this brings you back to exactly where the transformation occurs. Where does the transformation occur? In the present moment. How does that function then? How can that do it? By you, in fact, by you letting that teach you on a moment by moment basis. So as soon as an idea pops up in your mind, that as an image, like you want to pursue it because you have the tendency to do that, or it was an old habit to do so. Now here, the transformation takes place when you not do that, when you see that idea that comes up as a meaningless idea. And now it can, now in fact you can step forward because you let go of your temptation to follow this one idea, and here opens a new door with infinite possibilities, where things are possible that you didn't know was possible. And this is exactly what miracle-mindedness is. This is where light can come into your consciousness. If I choose an image, then I see myself as an image. I become an ego mind, and one that needs a description, that needs to be made, that needs to be sustained, that needs to be, all these things. It needs to be something. But here, in this present moment, everything is perfectly orchestrated. Everything is all set. It's a changeless beingness of complete fulfillment, joy and happiness. So this is the offering, and this is why this is an absolute high teaching spiritual healing in chapter 15. That's why it's so beautiful to use it. So the transformation is you standing still, not letting you be tempted by the thoughts that are popping in. Yes, but, or if, or tomorrow, or yesterday, or I think I am this, or I think I'm that. What are you doing? You evaluate images, you evaluate your thoughts, and that's another word of stepping into a labyrinth without an exit. So literally you have to die in that labyrinth in order to come back to receive the miracle of being here right now. Time, and we said this, time is inconceivable without change, and holiness does not change. Learn from this instant more than merely hell does not exist. In this redeeming instant lies heaven, and heaven will not change, for the birth into the holy present is salvation from change. And change is an illusion, taught by those who could not see themselves as guiltless. There's no change in heaven because there's no change in God. So here's our changeless idea, changelessness. Like there's no change in God. Where would God be changing into if He is whole and perfect, whole as itself, forever? So here now we're ready for some, say, an exercise, and you have to do this by yourself. So it's like, well, that's not so easy. So I came up with it just to inspire, in fact, to not use your intellect to get somewhere, but to stay in the moment, letting that idea rest a little bit in yourself, in your mind, and see what comes up. That happened to me too. It's like something came up, and I'm spilling that idea with you, and that gives you one choice less. That's maybe not so nice for you, but it was a great example that came to me to share with you. Let's get started with some exercises. While we do one, in the first meeting, the idea of changelessness is coming to you, to use as that which is God's creation. It doesn't know change. It doesn't know time. Here we do an exercise to come to inspiration and opening to expression in a different way. Okay, so take the word changelessness. So we can do this right now. So take the word changelessness. Let that word come into your consciousness, changelessness. and see what happens when you hear that word. So see what happens. Changelessness. Something that cannot change. And then it says here, make little doodles of them or come up with words that reflect the idea. And I give the example here of the circle. The circle. It's like it's changeless in that sense. It continuously starts at its beginning. It comes back to the same point, which is not really traceable at all. It's like it continuously comes back to the same thing. It circles around, but it's still a whole idea, you could say.